Hi guys, how's it going? Welcome back. I am Stella, and today we're going to take a look at the Magicshine Hori 1300 Pro. This is the third updated version of this light, and it's packed with a bunch of features. So to name a few, they are N+ connectivity, Di2 compatible, as well as the Magicshine app, FTR light sync. FTR stands for front tail remote. As far as hardware, dual optics design, 1300 lumens max output, 9.5 hours max runtime with 3200 milliamp battery, dual mount design, top under, rechargeable wireless remote, and there's a lot more, and we're going to touch on all of that except Di2. I'm also going to talk about the reliability, usability, and the performance, and lastly, we'll take a look at some comparisons between a different light. Most of the rides that I'll be showing here are mainly gravel rides, single tracks, a little bit of bike path, and tarmac. Alright, so before we begin, I just want to mention that Magicshine did send this light to me in exchange for my honest review. They did not get to say anything in this video, so everything is based on my opinion. Let's take a look at what we have in here. Instruction, the light itself, a T10 torque, rechargeable wireless remote, and the rubber band for it. Action camera mount adapter for the light, two mounting kits for the head units. They are Garmin and Wahoo compatible. However, there's no out front mount, which can be bought separately. Assuming majority of the people who purchase the light already have used some sort of computer, so they decided to ship these with computer mounting kits instead. The light can be mounted on top or under the bar. What I'm showing now is if I want to mount my light, my Garmin, my camera at the same time, the same station, I can do that. This is one quick stop right here. Here's what it looks like when everything is on the front of the bike. I normally don't keep my bar this crowded. A head unit and a light is ideal for me. However, it is possible if someone wants to carry all of that. Connectivity. Alright, let's turn over to Garmin because this is compatible with N+, so let's get these things hooked up. So I'm turning on both the light and the Garmin. On the head unit, go to sensor, add device, search all. The Hori 1300 Pro will pop up as random numbers. In my case, I'm seeing 55393. So click on it, it'll do its thing, and then it'll say light network form on the head unit. And that's it. Scroll down on the head unit and look for the light source, and here it is. So once connected, I can do a few things with it. I can turn the light on and off, control the solid and flash modes. FTR front tail remote will also work with that. We'll talk about FTR in a second. In addition, when I turn on my Garmin, the light or lights turn on automatically. It will flash once to let me know it is connected, and when I hit start on my Garmin, it will turn on. And when I'm done with my ride, I click save, the light automatically turns off. I use this feature a lot, and the N+ does not use much battery at all. Okay, something else worth mentioning. These menu down here that allows the light modes to be adjusted, high, low, auto, back and forth, etc., does not work. And according to Magicshine, and I'm quoting, light sensor and motion detection feature auto sleep high low beam adjustment via sensor is not supported on this model. So this feature does not work. However, this is probably one of the features that I don't use, and the reason is tapping on these buttons while riding only works 50% of the time. Plus, I need to take my eyes off the road, so I'm okay on that one. One thing I wish it showed on the screen is the current light mode, whether I'm in high, medium, or low mode, etc. But since the feature does not work, that is out of the question. Next, I'm taking the opportunity to connect both the Hori 1300 Pro and the CME 400 to the remote together to show what the FTR light sync is. So turn on both the headlight and tail lights. On the remote, press both the square and the circle buttons, hold until blue light flashes, then let go. After about 10 to 20 seconds, the blue light will become steady for a few seconds to show that the FTR has been paired. Now I'm testing to see if the remote works, and it does. So FTR light sync allows for one button or one tap operation, which can be controlled via the remote, the headlight itself, or the head unit. And it saves me one more button to have to manually turn on and off. Next, let's talk about the Magicshine app briefly. So the app allows me to do several things. I can customize the light output, switch from solid to flash mode if I forget the remote or whatever reason that might be, because the flash modes can only be switched on by the remote, the app, or the head unit. Another thing to notice, the Hori 1300 Pro does not support auto sleep feature, and that is why the motion sensor and light sensor switches are grayed out. I don't use the app a lot as far as output customization. The default settings have been good for me, but it's good to know how the app works. The light can also be controlled with DI2. I don't have DI2 to demonstrate, so I'm interested in reading comments from the DI2 people later. That's all as far as the connectivity and pairing go. Let's talk about features. So the light has 4 solid modes and 2 flash modes. There are 3 modes for low beam, so low, medium, and high, and there's high beam. I will include the output and runtime on here. The light takes about 2 hours to fully charge. Battery indicator green is between 100 to 21%, constant red is 20 to 11%, and flashing red is 10% or less. Listen, can we have another color? I mean, 21% should not be green, right? It has green, blue, and red. How about orangina at 50%? And the reason is most of my rides are about an hour and a half, and if I've used, let's say 70% and left with 30%, the next day when I ride, well, that's just wishful thinking. The next few days, I meant to say, it's gonna show me green even though it's at 30%. And after not riding for so long, I'm not gonna know what green is. But that next ride will most likely be about an hour and a half. And there's no way for me to tell or to reassure. But the other side of me is thinking just charge it after each ride. Let's have a look at the remote. It takes about 2.5 hours to fully charge, and I still believe the remote is the key player here in my opinion. So here's how it works. Hold either button for 1 second to turn the light on or off. Press the circle button once to cycle through each mode. Press the square button to turn the high beam on or off. Hold the square button for 1 second to activate the flash modes. What's really nice about the remote is, as a rider, while on the bike or off the bike, I don't have to touch the physical button on the light itself. Everything is controlled by this one little tiny thing. And people don't even know this is on the bar. I'll definitely touch on these when I show how the light performs. Hardware and aesthetic. So, aluminum body, replaceable mount, the whole unit looks and feels pretty solid, and that's based on the first version of this light that I bought more than 6 months ago. IPX6 rating, so it is extremely waterproof. One of the things I always focus on is the aesthetic. So I want to acknowledge the quality or quality control for that matters. The pieces that were put together was very nicely done. The lines where they meet are matching evenly, no sharp or rough edges. Very slim and smaller form factor for sure, and the dual optics with top under mounting options, making it very appealing in my opinion. Plus, the anti-glare beam cutoff design is definitely a new look on the road. Not to mention, when I bought the first version of this light, it was because of how cool it looks. The light weighs about 151 grams. The battery is kind of low right now, but once it's fully charged, it should add a few more grams to it. Wait, what? Always takes a second. Performance. Alright, let's see how the light performs in various types of rides. I've been asked quite a bit on how the Hori 1300 does on gravel. Let me answer that with the Hori 1300 Pro since they have the same brightness. So I'm approaching this canal bank here, which is roughly about 10 foot wide. And if I'm counting all the way to the fence on my left side, that's at least about 25 to 30 foot wide total. The first thing I do once I hit the gravel section is to angle or to tilt the light upward, because I don't have to worry about blinding anybody. And I was surprised on how wide the beam pattern is and how far it reaches. The only thing I wished for as far as coverage was a little bit more side visibility, meaning wider beam pattern closer to the rider. And that's mainly for turning or cornering when I'm on winding roads. However, I'm not in the highest mode yet. This is only 900 lumens, and for straighter roads like this, I'm comfortable from where I'm sitting. And here's what I'm starting to get used to. Since the light pattern is wider in the distance, and I mean it is wide, that kind of gives me a little bit more time to plan ahead whatever I need to do. I can see the fence area to my left where the houses are and the small bridge to my right about 10 seconds away with a current pace around 18 miles per hour. And here's the highest mode at 1300 lumens, making it wider at my size as well as throwing the light further. Still not crazy wide, still a little narrow on sharp turns, but again, the high beam adds plenty for me to notice. It's a good filler whenever I need it. And this next lateral canal is a little further from town. There's nothing here but almond trees, walnut trees, and allergies. It is completely dark, and even at 900 lumens, this is only 400 lumens. I missed the button. Now that's 900 lumens, and I can see really well with the pace I'm riding, which is around 20 to 22 miles per hour. I can see where I'm going, pick the right line if I need to, and when I go to 1300 lumens, I can't ask for more. Right now it's probably a hard press to find something that is similar or close to what this light offers in terms of the output, runtime, the price, and the size. We'll get to all of that later. So high beam is always a pleasant to use, very satisfying. This is a much wider gravel road than I was on earlier. It easily can fit a few cars side by side, and the light covers all of it. Let's compare the Hori 1300 Pro to one of my widest beam pattern lights, the Exposure Diablo Mark 14, since I already have it on my helmet. For reference, the Exposure Diablo is more of an off-road light, no cutoff line, no anti-glare. The beam pattern is really wide overall, considered it is a helmet light. Max output at 2000 lumens, very powerful light. If you want to know more, check out my video I reviewed on this light. With that said, I'm going to keep in mind that the Diablo has a slight advantage in this off-road gravel comparisons in terms of beam pattern and output. However, I understand it's hard to know how wide or narrow the beam pattern is by just listening or hearing and not seeing. So this demonstration is to show the differences or the unique features of the Hori 1300 Pro. I'm not saying which light is better or worse. They all have their own ups and downs. So both lights are tilted to get the maximum distance where the eyes can see. This is 900 lumens from the Hori 1300 Pro, and that's 1000 lumens from the Diablo. Once again, the downside to the Hori is when I'm not using its high beam, it starts out kind of narrow, but the good part is it gets really wide the further it goes and shines very evenly within the frame. Looking at this clip, I can see all the way to the other side, the right side of the canal, whereas on the Diablo I can't. However, the Diablo spreads the light pretty wide around me and possibly reaches further. So now the Hori is in its highest mode, high beam at 1300 lumens, and of course it fills some of the darker spots as well as improving the overall visibility where the 900 lumens are missing. Here's another clip, and this time the Diablo is at 2000 lumens, and even so, due to the nature of the beam pattern, the Hori at 1300 lumens still shines a little wider in the distance than the Diablo at 2000 lumens. However, the Diablo fills up most of the gaps that the Hori does not. The next thing I want to talk about is high beam. People, and myself included, have made a comment from the last video I made, the first version of it, that the high beam on the Hori 1300 series is shooting a little high, which reflects with the road signs, posters, and banners and all. And I think there's a reason for that. So the Hori 1300 Pro is all about anti-glare and cutoff beam pattern. The light does not disperse beyond the cutoff line or frame. That means when it is at 900 lumens, everything is flat now. I'm only seeing what's in the frame. However, when I'm descending, the light is going to dip, and that's going to shorten my visibility. So to maintain that horizontal line, the high beam has to project the way it is. But that's just what I think. Another reason, when I'm on my gravel bike or mountain bike, riding on gravel roads or single tracks, I need to be able to see those overhang tree branches, shrubs, bushes, and I found a place and a reason to put the high beam to work effectively. Mountain biking on a single track. But who buys this light for mountain biking? So I'm on my hardtail dropping into this single track. This is a blue trail, nothing technical about it. Just need to pick the right lines and steer on time. But let's just pay attention to my surroundings as I go back and forth between the low beam and high beam. And it is also a good time to appreciate the wireless remote, which is strapped around the left side of my handlebar, and I would not trade anything for it. High beam makes a big difference for this kind of environment because one, it acts as a filler that adds some clarity to my sides and overall visibility. I mentioned that earlier during the gravel sections. And two, I can see the full effect of the 1300 lumens working. Those trees, overhang branches, bushes, and so on. They start to appear once the high beam is activated. With that said, this is by no means a standalone handlebar light for trail riding. In fact, to be fair, I don't believe there's any self-contained handlebar light unless it is paired with some sort of a helmet light. But I'm only pushing the boundary to see how far the Hori 1300 Pro gets, and it just so happens that it works out pretty well for me when I pair it up with my helmet light. So here are some more footage. This is 900 lumens. This section is not too twisty. I can see the trail and the bottom of those trees in front of me, which kind of guide me through the trail. Here's high beam, and the trail looks less intimidating. And here's the helmet light. Now I can ride and predict more accurately and pick up the pace if I need to. Dropping the helmet light to the lower mode, this is about 700 lumens, which puts everything at around 2000 lumens, in case if anybody is curious. So for these kind of trails, I'm pretty happy with what I see, and because of the high beam, I can still see especially those overhang branches from the corner of my eyes, even when I turn my head away. Here's one on tarmac. This is toward the countryside. The roads don't get used much by cars coming this way. And again, it starts out narrower but fills up the entire road completely as it goes at 900 lumens, not in the highest mode yet. And when I say narrow, it's not to the point where it's going to give me issues when I come to a turn or on winding roads. Don't let that intimidate. I just want to be level and on the same page with everybody. Let's recap. Starting with accessories, specifically the mount, very versatile. I can mount all of my essentials with the light, and with N+ and Di2 built in, I don't see that with many lights out there. So this is definitely something new, and I do use the N+ feature a lot on my Garmin to turn the light on and off and to activate the flash mode. However, switching through different modes, such as going from low to medium to high or back and forth, it is not available. This is not something that I think I'll be using, but it would be pretty cool if it works. FTR light sync has been working flawless so far, which is controlled by a click or a single tap of a button. Output and runtime ratio is impressive given the size of the light, 150.5 grams to be exact. And I know some of you are still thinking, will it be heavier when fully charged? Well, the answer is no unless you overcharge it. The remote is probably the best accessory. It is small and can be mounted anywhere within reach, allows for hands-free on and off. As far as performance, the beam pattern starts out narrow but gets really wide the further it goes, and it does go pretty far. Normally I'd always have about 10 or more seconds to react to whatever it is that I'm approaching with a pace around 18 to 20 miles per hour. In other words, I won't have any issues seeing in the distance. But the question is it good enough for road riding on tarmac? Well, if I feel comfortable riding on a 10-foot wide gravel road, or even worse, on the canal, then it is good for me on tarmac. Alright, I'll stop here. This video is way longer than what's intended, but leave comments, educate me with what information I'm missing, what would you like to see more as far as light reviews, and what lights are you riding with, what types of rides do you do. And if you enjoy watching the video, if you would like to purchase the light, I have included both the Amazon and the official website links in my description. Every light that gets sold from here, I make several percent. That should support and help out the channel a little bit. Other than that, talk to you guys next time. Have a safe ride.